Balanced Literacy in Richland School District 2. In this video, you will learn about the balanced literacy model for instruction in the ELA classroom in grades K through 5 in Richland School District 2. This is a diagram of the balanced literacy model. First, you will notice the principles of reading. This is the area of the foundational skills such as phonics, phonemic awareness, and word analysis skills. It is balanced nicely with the use of literary text and informational text. Along the bar, you will see the 4 components of the balanced literacy model for instruction. You have read aloud, which is the first component in the gradual release of responsibility model. During the read aloud, the teacher is modeling reading, modeling thinking, and showing the students what good readers do when they read. The next component is shared reading. The teachers and the students are reading together, sharing support. This text is on grade level. No one is doing independent reading or round-robin reading at this time. The third component is guided reading. This is when the teacher has divided the students into small groups. They are working on strategy work or reading at their instructional level. The teacher is there to guide the instruction. The final component is independent reading. Students are reading independently, usually from their bag of books, and they are reading text that is appealing to them and of their choice. Along the bottom in the triangle, you will see writing. Writing and reading are very important to each other. Writing balances the reading, and the reading is balanced with writing. Across the top, you will see the word communication. This stands for the communication standards that you will see in reading and writing. This is a gradual release of responsibility model. With the read aloud, the teacher models. Shared reading, the teacher and the students are working together. In guided reading, the students are doing the work with the support of the teacher. And then in independent reading, the students are actually doing all of the reading with the teacher conferring and supporting them. This is a recommended schedule for the balanced literacy model in a K2 classroom. Across the left-hand side, you will see the components of the balanced literacy model. Read aloud, shared reading, guided reading with workshop, independent reading, and writing. The middle column shares with you the number of days per week that you would do each of these components. Read aloud would be 5 days. The minutes for instruction are on the right-hand side, 5 to 15 minutes. Shared reading, 2 to 4 days, 15 to 20 minutes each time that you do shared reading with your students. Guided reading to include workshop would be 3 to 4 days per week, 10 to 20 minutes per group as needed. Independent reading should happen every day, and the time for that would be 10 to 30 minutes with students building that stamina, so they might start with 10 minutes at the beginning of the year and hopefully work up to at least 30 minutes. Writing would happen 5 days a week, 20 to 60 minutes per day. The next schedule shows you a recommended schedule for grades 3 through 5. This is one of 2 schedules that you may choose to use. Along the left-hand side, once again, you're going to see those components of balanced literacy with the number of days and minutes. So read aloud in a 3-5 classroom would be daily with a maximum of about 10 minutes. The shared reading would be daily with a maximum of 20 minutes. Independent reading would be daily with a minimum of 20 minutes. Reader's Workshop, which would include your guided reading and your literacy stations, would be 2 to 3 days per week with a maximum of 20 minutes per group, depending on how many groups the teacher chooses to use to meet with that day. The Writer's Workshop would also be 2 to 3 days per week with a maximum of 40 minutes consecutive minutes each time that you have writing workshop. This is another alternate schedule that you may choose to use. The difference in this schedule would be on the left-hand side, you can see a schedule for reading, looking closely at the same structure, and then writing, which you would look at as whole group, would be a maximum of 20 minutes, with a mini lesson, maybe the use of a mentor text, some shared writing, word study, and then a chance to reflect and share. With small group during the writing workshop time would be about maximum 35 minutes. You would have some guided writing. You would have some word study. Independent writing would last about 15 minutes. Then you would have conferring with the writers and some reading response. You would also have independent reading, which would be a minimum of 20 minutes. And once again, that conferring and that reader's response. So both of those schedules could be used in grades 3 through 5, with the teacher choosing which one fits their model best. During the balanced literacy model of instruction, it's very important that teacher plans and models these mini lessons. They have time to read and confer with students. They would do that during shared reading, guided reading, and independent reading time. Assessment would be ongoing, with children being assessed on a routine basis, looking closely at their independent reading levels and their instructional levels, and any strategies they might need to work on. Literacy workshop would include your guided reading and your practice during stations. Teachers would plan any kind of activity that might ensure that students are being monitored using the literacy standards for the state of South Carolina. Let's look closely at each little component of the balanced literacy model again, with the read aloud being whole group. The teacher reads aloud to the students, modeling strategies in their thinking. They cover things such as concepts of print, communication skills, language, vocabulary, strategy work. There's so much that they can cover in the read aloud. At the end of a read aloud lesson, the teacher ensures that the students have a chance to share what they have noticed that the reader has done during this time. During shared reading, the teacher has chosen a text on grade level. Often it's the Basil story or a Reading A to Z book. Teacher needs to ensure that all eyes are on the same text. If the text is projected on the smartboard, the teacher needs to make sure that students also have a paper copy in front of them. Again, this is not round robin reading. This is a time for the students to have a choral read. Often 2 or more students are reading a passage at one time. They are practicing decoding and comprehension strategies. And the shared reading text is a text that could be used for mentor text for writing later in the lesson. Guided reading is when the teacher has broken the group into small groups based on their needs. It could be that they are all reading from the same level text, or they're doing instructional work with strategies. Teacher is the facilitator. The students are doing most of the reading with the teacher there guiding them. It's very important that the teacher has chosen a text that is on the instructional level in order to make sure that the students have the opportunity to practice strategies they need to learn. During the time that you have guided reading, you would also have literacy workshop. This is a time when the teachers pull in the small groups for for the guided reading, but the literacy stations are workstations where the students are having the opportunity to practice any kind of activity that would support the instruction throughout the week. Independent reading is when the students are choosing text to read. Often they will have a bag of books or a tub of books. The teacher will introduce a mini lesson. Students will work on building that stamina. The teacher will be conferencing one-on-one with students, and the students will independently practice skills and strategies. At the end of independent reading, students should have a chance to share what they have read or something that they've noticed that goes along with the mini lesson. Writing is the last component. It should happen 3 to 5 days per week during the literacy stations, but also there should be an additional amount of time of at least 60 minutes during writing workshop each week. This is when the teacher would give a mini lesson. The students would do some shared writing with the teacher and independent writing with conferring. The mini lessons would be very detailed, and often the teacher would use a mentor text, maybe the text that was used for the read aloud or the shared reading earlier in the lesson. Students would have an opportunity to share their writing at the end. In conclusion, if teachers need more information on how the balanced literacy model might be used in Richland School District 2, they can visit the Literacy Connections Google site. There you will find the R2K2 curriculum for grades K through 2, where the balanced literacy model is used along with lesson plans. Also, teachers of grades 3 through 5 can look at the alignment documents where they will see the correlation with science and social studies and lessons that can be used during the ELA block.